Chapter 1. A Faint Light is Born. Beginning. Starting from the origin point varies in challenge. For some, it's easy. They'd happily wish for a fresh start. My tale never gets easier to regale. Each time I start, the conclusion haunts my every syllable. If only my power extended to the bending of the knees of fate. My changes would surpass the longest scripts conceived. However, there lies a staple I'd never touch given the chance. Those words sing to me like an anthem, and I'd never trade them. Be my light. Countless times, the many from days of old chanted those three simple words. I suspect you didn't come to hear me ramble. Very well. I must warn you, this story is rather unpleasant. Moments of joy reside, but trails of darkness ride alongside. People, young and old, meet the grimmest of things. Many slather their blood in this ancient soil. Furthermore, these old characters experience profound loss of will. This lengthy memory may affect you too. Do you still wish to learn the tragic past? All right, I hope you'll heed my words. I will describe all in the fullest depth I can recall. I'm sure you're aware of our world structure, balance, and cycle. Therefore, I'll keep this shorter than usual. Within the bounds of our understanding, we live amongst three major forests that share a multitude of biomes: deserts, jungles, forests within forests, and so on. One is Nibel, the land many consider the true origin point. It's what most have heard of. And though I've never visited, the tourists and locals describe Nibel fondly. However, its age pales in comparison to the second forest, Newen. Newen is the oldest of the three. The generations this historical landmark housed spans far beyond any history we can hope to have. It's due to this age that many events are shrouded in mystery. All outsiders, despite never visiting, spread rumors and misinformation. It's quite a handful. In the end, we may never fully understand the mystique Newen carries. The third and final forest once connected the two, and made travel between them much easier. It's where I tell this tale from. Zoe is my home, and I've never known anything else. I dare not summarize it as I did previously, so I'll save that once my introductions end. Each of these three land masses are home to a myriad of animals and insects. My favorite is the Moki, tall and fluffy creatures with long tails. Traditionally, they'd host a scout demeanor from their digitigrade stance, but as you'll learn later, there are other breeds with different roles. Normally, their appearance lends itself to darker shades of cyan, gray, with bright yellow eyes that dimly glowed. However, again, these will differ later on. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. The foundation for any of these homes to be nominated as official forests are ginormous trees with ornate roots, bark, and intricate thrones at their precipice. These house what are known best as light vessels. The trees themselves are called spirit trees. Think of these elements as being half of one another. When the two of them collide, miracles of nature are born. Woven between their leaves of green are bright, wispy blue leaves that give birth to another anthropomorphic species. Everyone knows these loyal guardians as spirits. Despite our similar bipedal stance, Moki and spirits are fundamentally different. We don't stand tall. In fact, our more agile appearance often sees us bending knees in preparation to hop, skip, and climb out of any danger. Our entire body glows too, not just the eyes. In fact, the eyes don't glow whatsoever. Furthering the differences are the distinct pale blue body color. Our ears are also floppier, and at the top of our heads are antennae, which vary greatly from each of us. Finally, a random selection of spirits have hooves for feet, and the ratio between the two is fairly even. The task my kind bears, rather enthusiastically I might add, is to defend their respective forest, in some cases to their tragic detriment. That is where Zoe comes in. Zoe's history is much shallower than the others, but arguably the most tragic. I should know. After all, I experienced it firsthand. Witnessing times before even my existence was a talent spirits were practiced in. Memory was priceless to us. However, let's not get too far ahead. I'll start where this all began, with water thick as sludge, and overwhelming odds. A river, most dark, yet slow in its flow, gave rise to burns that seeped through my thin fur layer. My recent birth had met with uncertainty and newborn cries that extended a great distance. These waters weren't conventional. I could barely make anything out of my flailing fit of panic, but blotches of deep purple and green melded together, coagulating in a dreamlike setting. However, it was no dream. In fact, the view easily described itself as a realm of nightmares and vicious pain. The pain seared as continued flails from the arms down painted a coarse picture of poorly animated swimming. Obviously, spoken word was a luxury this infant couldn't afford, so tearful screams sufficed. Unfortunately, nothing appeared to reward my desperate pleas. Not a soul graced my blurry sight. Violent squirmed fits cannot sustain life on the surface of purple-coated waves. My body soon initiated a slow crawl underneath the waters. Potent, heavy sludge grabbed my legs through mere coincidence and carried me along the sluggish river. The fight for life motivation quelled as my body waned in strength. The will to cry soon became my only lifeline before my face completely submerged in these decay-infested waters. Decay is our enemy. It is nothing but a toxic coagulated mass that finds new ground in our world here and there. That cursed virus doesn't care for anything, as is evident by its own will to devour a mere child. However, as I began to sink in its horrific depths, a pair of hands reached for my tiny body and pulled me from the possessive blobs. Muted tones of purple spread throughout my frail form, which the bright, blurry entity swiftly cleaned. I cried and cried, passion flowing higher than the skies above. The pain raged upon my skin, passing the fuzzy gates that were my fur, until I could no longer peer into the blotchy world. A dark, uncharacteristically warm plane greeted my unconscious form. I couldn't see, though something soft and comforting rubbed my weary head, gently plucking the antenna that flayed out along the floor. It was this motion that awoke me from the coma I'd been in. Not a shred of pain lingered, just a moment of peace, comfort, and wonder, despite the off-put world around me. Towers of brown, woven in thin purple trails, spread throughout the edge of the coast, which bled into the dark, treacherous waters. Regardless of the clear, irregular state of these towers, atop their bark-coated bodies were dark green leaves. The branches holding them almost appeared to beg for someone to bear the weight. Nevertheless, the naturally lanky arms firmly grasped the dim foliage. The lands beyond the deadly coast didn't pique this infant's interest. The blooming critter above caught my attention, with highly observant eyes. They appeared to be looking for something, although I couldn't understand, nor did I care to. If there was anything I craved, it was to be loved and held. I stretched my miniature arms, splaying out my smaller fingers, hoping they'd comply. However, the white, purple-striped figure appeared uninterested in their lap, so I coaxed them with a light wine. The soil, damp and cold, bestowed all of its discomfort onto me and formed an intolerance to its unwelcoming presence. Eventually, their focus broke, and they lifted me from the ground into a seated position against their body. The ground expressed great relief as the mud made way for me. My desire for a holding position wasn't met, but this did well enough. The arms holding me softened my hearty uncertainty, quelling the fear that nagged me like a parent dealing punishment. The finger-ended appendages formed light purple stripes near the shoulders. Their hind paws, facial marks, and the tips of their 3 antennae all bore these pale purple shades. Clearly their creator enjoyed faded splashes of soft color. The creator in question, clear as days beyond this fog-clustered environment, was a tree, a spirit tree. Their glowing body made that abundantly clear. My comforter's height could have confused him for a child his own. He was still larger, but not by leaps and bounds. Soon, after my extensive observations, I made an exciting discovery. at least as far as I was concerned. It was their tail, painted in familiar purple shades. I attempted to grab a hold of the partially furled appendage. Of course, they swiftly refused, moving it away. I tried again, this time with a cheerful yip. Still they refused, and my third attempt, they slowly grabbed my arm. I panned my eyes over to his, and they greeted me with a pinch of irritation. The tone shift rekindled the winds that came and went with the sludge-filled waters. Not even the damp terrain cared to protect my expired feelings as I squirmed to a more comforting position. Fortunately, he spoke, easing my childish instincts. "It's okay. Ire will protect you." The words, although gibberish to me, warmed me like a blanket and lulled me into a sleep-filled mood. I stretched my arms, yawned inaudibly, and led my eyes into a weary state. The spirit, whose name I managed to understand, continued the motion he ceased earlier. Gentle rubbings drew me closer to sleep's dreamy embrace, though before I said hello to it, a red stripe caught my eye. I wasn't sure where it came from, but the world had returned to its former blotchy state. The origin of this strange color simply blended with everything else and found me fast asleep before long. Slumber granted me profound passage into the land of relief. The feral beast known as fear trembled before arms of warmth. The melting potential against the icy heart staved it far from me. My shield called upon comfort, to which it came and surrounded this infant's feeble body and provided a blanket I snuggled against. From above those sensations, voices quietly communicated. Perhaps they wished to retain my sleeping state, but dialogue crept through the cracks. "He may endanger us. Can we afford to care? Please reconsider. He needs us." Before I lost myself to the deep recesses of sleep once more, another line of verbiage came through, and just clicked, as Aya's name did. "I call him Luke."